Gentlemen and female gentlemen, I have no mouth and I must scream. This has been literally me fighting with Disney over the last 3 weeks, getting everything that I make even remotely Disney related copyrighted, and I can't actually fight the claims because they will take me to court. So after all the hours of content being poured into stuff, it's time to go below the belt and tackle something that has been very old. We tackle something that is past the statute of Disney's limitations. They will never own this, and we are therefore safe. I have no mouth, and I must scream. Wendigoon made a video on this, and, all right, let's see. I have no couch, and I must cream. I have no hands, and I must goon. All right, chat, you gotta stop. I have no mouth, and I must suck. Chat, stop! It's not gooning time, all right? This is apparently a horror story that will shake me to the foundry of my very core. Now, a lot of you know me as Taku. You're wrong! A lot of you know me as Nuxanor. You're partially right. I am Lord Nuxalore, and I will consume all lore. I have no hands, and I must fat. Okay, stop! Stop! I have no peen. All right, you know, enough for this. No more looking at chat. Let's see what we got.
Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about what is considered to many the most depressing and hopeless story of all of media.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's I have no mouth and I must scream. In actuality, it's not. In actuality, the most hopeless, depressing thing in all of media is the idea of trying to fight a copyright dispute against fucking Disney that just fucking has it out for me.
And that is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
All right, let's see.
I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream was written by Harlan Ellison and was originally released in 1967.
That sounds like it's too old for Disney to buy and copyright me for, so that's a dub.
The story was later adapted into a video game in 1995 and has not had any mainline television or movie spin-offs. However, it has gone on to inspire the majority of what sci-fi horror has become.
Very excited for Disney to buy this so they could copyright me. They'll buy it, they'll recast all the characters to be lesbians that impregnate each other with the Force, then they're just going to copyright my entire library of videos. I'm very excited for that. If that does happen, you can officially call me Pre-Watchinor, all right? I will change my YouTube name to Pre-Watchinor if that happens.
In 1967, when this short story was written, sci-fi horror was really non-existent. See, ideas of the future and technology were much more often adapted into stories like Star Trek and the Jetsons, with this idea that technology will be used to usher humanity into a new utopia.
I don't know. I'm diving deep into Warhammer lore, you know, because I'm gonna consume all lore that ever existed. But like, dude, I've been consuming Warhammer lore, and it's like, I don't know, something about sci-fi. It's just wholesome. It's just wholesome the way it ushers people to. All right, I know this is obviously before Warhammer, but that's just funny to me.
And horror at the time was regulated to much more realistic or down-to-earth concepts that people at the time were afraid of, such as
like basic creepy ass stalkers and serial killers and murderers and rapists. Like, that was horror. Like a guy in a freaky mask chasing you with a chainsaw. Like, that was classic horror. It is interesting though to me because Lovecraft died in 1937. So I feel like we already do have an idea for a cosmic horror. So and I know that because I'm working on this big ass main channel Lovecraft video. But all right, so I'm intrigued to see where he's going with this.
As religious fears with movies like The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, and ideas of human killers or maniacs with films such as Psycho. However, because of stories like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and other short stories from Harlan Ellison, people began to realize that horror and ideas of the inhuman can be much better applied, whenever they are applied, to an inhuman landscape.
All right. I'm ready for this. Inhuman landscape, depression beyond measure. Holy shit. You just add cannibalism to the list and it's like classic Nux content. Also, why is there a big poster of Mosquito in his background? You know, actually, I don't want to know.
Think about it. If ideas like fear and terror all revolve around the idea of the unknown, then what could be more terrifying than taking people and placing them in a completely unfamiliar space? Okay. And I feel that very few stories do that, as well as the story that we're going to talk about today. Now, there have been several YouTube videos that go into very great detail about this subject and how it's affected different aspects of modern culture. For example, a video I'm going to link in the description by Ryan Hollinger did a fantastic job of showing how this story affected cinema and storytelling after it was written. However, I wanted...
Interesting. Yo, I'm so excited to get into a whole new facet of lore shit. If you guys like this, 10,000 likes and I will do more. I will do more Wendigoon lore dives into random esoteric horror shit. Because Disney can't copyright it, so I mean, like, it's a free game.
To do something
that's for real estate.
A little bit different.
I'm sorry, I'm so salty about the Disney thing. It's literally fucked up my entire day. Anyway,
what we're gonna do is I'm going to go through the plot step by step with outlining a few things that I got from it while
lore.
And in the end,
and as you know, I will also overanalyze it. That's what I do here. I consume all lore, and I will overanalyze the shit out of it.
I want to bring up that I thought of while reading this that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about before. See, because of the bleak nature of this story and how downtrodden everything in it seems to be, a lot of people just write it off as being a sort of short insight of how terrible the world can be and how everything's gone wrong for these characters, and it's pretty much just a depraved look into Ellison's idea of what hell could be. However, because
okay. I don't know. I like stories that really focus on the bleakness of reality. I think horror is at its best when it's so easily attributed to something that actually happens in real life. I don't know. Just the name of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is such a fucking masterful title. Like, it instantly grabs your attention.
Of things that I'm going to point out, and as I get to it at the end of the story, I believe that what Harlan Ellison has written here is a fantastic triumph of the human spirit in the face of adversity.
Oh, shit. It's a wholesome finale? The moral is positive to I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream? Okay. I have not been made aware of this. I thought it was just pure and utter depression.
Because of how awful and evil that diversity is, and as we're going to see it throughout the story, it makes the end resolve.
Everyone in chat's like, lol, no. All right, dude. Okay, all right, okay. Fine. Oh, shit. Yeah, it's wholesome like Berserk is wholesome. Oh, no.
The better. In other words, as we go through the story of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream,
all right,
I want to convey to you while I feel that there is hope in what most consider to be the absolute hopeless. Now, while I'm sure that...
Oh my God, he just changed Hawaiian shirts. He is signaling to two whole different groups of far-right extremists to commit war crimes right now.
You're excited to hear about unholy horrors.
You know, you know what I'm more excited about than unholy horrors? I'm even more excited to hear about this video's sponsor.
Beyond our comprehension, I want to make sure that you can hear those horrors even better with
through
today's
Audible
sponsor, Raycon.
I was close. All right. Yeah, all right, dude. Yeah, fine. Use code Taku on Raycon to get 15%.
To accurately describe why public perception of this story is the way that it is,
all right.
To give you context for the story itself,
I'm ready.
I would be amiss if I didn't talk about the man behind the pen, Harlan Ellison. Ellison was born in 1934, and as he grew up, was a very rough and sort of mean-spirited child. He has said on several occasions that writing science fiction is the thing that kept him from going to prison.
Holy shit. Dude, I love how all the different horror writers were all just pieces of shit in their actual lives. It's like how Lovecraft married a half-Jewish woman, and he was like, well, at least she's only half-Jewish, so I could get away with it. Like, whoa! It's like, I focus on the other half, you know? It's like, god damn!
Not only that, but Ellison was part of the Vietnam
you don't want to know what Lovecraft named his cat.
War, and being a part of that war shaped a lot of his ideas of the atrocities that humanity is capable of. Ellison wrote over 1,700 short stories in his lifetime, and while you may think, oh, well, I bet he was a very well-renowned and respected member of the literature community.
Let me tell you something about the literature community. And this isn't any literature community. This is every literature community ever. Ladies and gentlemen, people of the jury, whether you're watching this at home or watching this on the toilet, which is hopefully at home, anyone that does something new, groundbreaking, different, that person is always ostracized by the powers at be. Every single generation, every single genre, every single trope. If you push the boundaries, you will get annihilated for it. And this is everything. This is literally everything. Because no one wants the status quo to be rocked by some random new guy.
No. I'll try to make this tie into my analysis, but these descriptions are way too funny to not bring up. He was kicked out of Ohio State University after...
I have no mouth and I must scream. Guys from Ohio. No.
You're only attending...
Oh my god, this lore dive is coming so in handy. Holy crap.
3 semesters because he wasn't keeping up with his classes, and his English teacher told him that his writing would never amount to anything and he had poor writing skills.
Bro, I got that same shit. Dude, everyone successful has a story about how they were told in high school that they would never amount to anything.
Which, out of sheer...
Well, in my case, they weren't that wrong.
Pettiness, every time that Ellison would publish a story, he would mail or later email that story to that college professor. Not long after...
What a troll! Oh my god. This guy, every time he would he became a writer of 1,700 short stories to troll his professors. Petty son of a bitch. That's insane. Makes Perturabo look like the epitome of mental health.
After this, he got a writing job at Disney Studios.
Today was supposed to be Star Wars content, and I completely decided to not do that because of Disney. There is no way. This was my escape. I went to a hopeful hell. I have no mouth and I must scream as a personal escape from Disney. Are you joking me? God, dude, this world really is just God's divine comedy, isn't it?
However, he was fired on the first day of working.
Let's go! Let's freaking go! Oh, you're just like me, for real, for real.
Because Roy Disney, the older brother of Walt Disney...
Yeah, you know Walt Disney, the very famous anti-Semite? That Disney? Yeah, you heard of it.
Overheard him talking about how the first thing he was going to do is write an adult comic of famous Disney characters.
Yeah! His first day in Disney, he's like, all right, bro, you ain't ready for the Mickey Mouse Rule 34 that I'm going to be coming out. Oh my god, man's a psycho.
And if you're thinking, well, you know, when he was a kid just starting off, he may have been a bit more contemptuous and had a temper towards people, and I'm sure it got better as he became an author. Once again, no. There are quite literally too many examples for me to name here, but to give you some of my favorites, after one publisher wouldn't publish his story the way that Ellison wanted it to be published, he mailed the publisher 213 bricks as well as a dead gopher.
What a fucking mad lad. Okay, first of all, I am completely on Ellis's side here. I have an entire main channel video basically ready. I just need to get it through some demonetization parts. I need to edit a few little segments of the video where I talked about artistic vandalism, okay? The idea that an author's work gets warped and destroyed by some actual publisher or big multimedia company that wants to appease people in China or something, that's all insanely bullshit. And I absolutely hate that so much. So I respect the main guy. I respect the protagonist, the story being the writer, being able to produce and create and publicize whatever he actually wants. But mailing 213 bricks and a dead gopher? Bro, I mailed a giant sack of shit to someone once as a meme. I did not expect this to... I did not expect to be topped. You could ask Meow Moonified, the VTuber, about that. That was an interesting arc.
Which he had also not paid postage on, saying that the receiver would pay postage on it after it was delivered.
Nice.
He also had a reputation for physically assaulting other authors. Not really...
Okay, that's fucked. Just beat up other authors. Oh, God. You might not be aware of this. There's an actual website that delivers shit to people. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. It exists, and do with that information what you will. I'm just saying. Do with that information what you will. Now, I am not telling you to go to that website to buy a giant sack of shit and send it to 10100 Dreamtree Boulevard, Lake Buena Vista, Florida 32836 USA, which coincidentally is Disney's office. Now, I'm not telling you to do that, okay? Don't. In fact, don't do that. Do not do that, okay? Don't do that. However, no, don't do that. Honestly, that was just a joke. Don't do it.
Really sure as to why. There was one instance where he physically assaulted another author. That author took him to court, and there was a gag order that neither of the men could talk about it, but Ellison didn't care and openly talked about it and how he beat that other guy in a fight.
Holy shit, what a monster. He just beat up another author.
He said several times that the James Cameron movie Terminator was a ripoff of one.
Oh, editor, actually, unironically though, censor when I say the address. Do not let that in the actual YouTube video. Censor the address.
Of his short stories, to which the studio actually settled with Ellison outside of court, and James Cameron later said that he didn't believe Ellison at all and Ellison was just looking to cause trouble. Ellison later played himself on an episode of The Simpsons, to which a joke in the episode was that Ellison was mad that they stole the idea of Terminator from him.
They stole Terminator? Dude, Terminator. I love this guy. He's the pettiest motherfucker out there. Man makes Dio look like a Zen individual.
He was also known for his weird insults that he would give interviewers and publishers.
Nice.
To give you a couple of my favorite, one publisher said that Ellison told him that he had the intellectual and cranial capacity of an artichoke, and then in the memoir at the end of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, he's describing a story in which a Jesuit scholar gave an interpretation of what the story meant, to which Ellison responded to him, I've listened to all of this rubbish, all of this investiture of a straightforward moral fable with an unwarranted load of silly symbolism and portentous obscurantism. And frankly, Father, I think you're stuffed right full of wild blueberry muffins.
Nice,
What does that even mean?
It doesn't matter. Dude, Gordon Ramsay's out there like fucking... literally the inspiration for this man's entire life. Holy shit. Bro needs to pull out a thesaurus to understand his zingers. This is awesome.
At the 2006 Hugo Awards, whenever Ellison went on stage to...
You have the cranial capacity of an artichoke. God damn.
Accept his award, the lady who was presenting him the award said, "Are you going to behave?" To which Ellison put the microphone in his mouth, made a loud noise, and then walked off stage.
Dude, it's so crazy. Sometimes he'll have like these verbose intellectual roasts, and then sometimes he'll just like take the microphone, deep throat it, and go and then leave. Man's a fucking legend. Oh my god. Dude, it takes someone unhinged like that to really write a harrowing and immortal horror story. All right, dude, I'm so ready for I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Dude, it's like, here, let me see if I can find this clip. There was someone, a YouTuber, who got an award. I think it was Bill Wirtz. Bill Wirtz Award. I'm pretty sure he had a very similar moment. Here, look at this. This is crazy.
Breaking off from the pack is what got me to where I am today. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
You know it. The world is bigger than ever, and what's exciting is the person or artist who challenges our concepciones. They are the weird ones, the weirdos, and sometimes they're ahead of their time, sometimes they're behind it. Yeah, baby. And sometimes.
All right, we're skipping it, baby. To Bill Wirtz.
I saw it. And the award goes to Bill Wirtz. Hey!
And look how this guy, this legend accepts. He was supposed to give his speech. And he just walked away. And then he leaves. I don't know. I think that's awesome. Honestly, that's probably the second best award acceptance I've ever seen in my life. The best award acceptance I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely, undoubtedly goes to Moist Critical winning the Streamer Awards.
What they were able to pull off with the Streamer Awards.
This is the greatest thing in the world. I don't know if you're familiar, but this is the greatest stream acceptance award of all time. This makes freaking, what's his face? I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream guy. It makes him want to scream. He was so outclassed.
Moist Critical! Let's fucking go!
Right? He's scared of flying, so he literally didn't leave. He stayed home to watch the awards at home because he's scared of flying. And two guys dress up as Moist Critical to accept the award on his behalf. They go out.
I hope he prepared. I hope they prepared the speech. Let's fucking go.
I love this so much.
Let's fucking get it.
This is the greatest thing ever.
I hope it's a banger. If he doesn't mention The Mummy or Men in Black, the animated series, then he utterly failed. Then he blew it.
I feel like I just pulled a PSA 10 first edition Charizard baseless shadowless while Belle Delphine was playing with my nipples and Nico Cotto Avocado was licking my asshole. I just want to say thank you guys so much for this. I want to thank the Moist Critical team, Charlie, and Charlie. And I just want to say this is the best thing that's happened since Netflix got rid of cuties. It's the best thing that's happened in my life since I first got my first Moby Huge and sat on it for 24 hours straight. I just want you guys to know that this means the world to me. And I feel like Thanos snapped away half my sadness, and the remaining half is just going to stay with me. I'm a complete person, and I will grow. So with that all said, I just want to say, woo, yeah, baby!
This is the other one.
That was the best goddamn speech of all time. Easy dubs. Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah, wow indeed. Okay, that is the greatest award acceptance in the history of time. Okay, I'm just saying, Mr. I have no math and I'm a scream guy, bro. Dude, you got nothing on this guy. Anyway.
Are you gonna be good?
Here we go. I learn about lore at the same time as you guys learn about lore. Look at that. I teach you some lore. You teach me some lore. That's what this relationship is all about. Subscribe for more lore.
No. Let me say that another way. Are you gonna be good?
He also had a legal dispute with Marvel Comics whenever an issue of The Incredible Hulk.
Base, do you know who owns Marvel Comics? Do you know who owns Disney, ladies and gentlemen? God!
Had a story that he said was stolen from his short story, Soldier, which is also the short story which he said Terminator was based on. After Marvel
Every famous fighting show and movie in the universe was stolen from him, apparently.
Comics admitted fault. He said that he would drop it if they paid him what they paid the comics author, as well as a lifetime subscription to everything Marvel Comics produces. Also, he was on an episode of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated where he played himself.
Nice.
I didn't really have a place to mention that, but I wanted to, so there you go.
Okay, cool.
He's also been very upfront when it comes to questions regarding his ideas of humanity and people. For example, when giving interviews for the story I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, interviewers would state something along the lines of, well, it seems like according to this story, you just hate society and people in general.
True! I mean, no, it's actually a deep metaphor for how much I love people.
To which he would respond, well, that's true, I do hate society and people in general.
I love him so. This guy's amazing. Wait, he's so good. You have to be a real deranged kind of motherfucker to write a story that's gonna last this long, especially in the horror genre.
So things like that, as well as his general brash nature, which I think I've proven up until this point, people generally tend to write him off as a misanthrope. Or in other words, someone who just hates people and all of their stories are about how people are awful and yada yada yada. However, as with most pieces of media that are also accused of being misanthropic, feel that that is the interpretation you get if you don't think about it too much. Or in other words, sure, if you look at the plot details beat by beat and just sort of read it off of his spark notes, it sounds like this is just a long-form torture fantasy. But
I love stories like this. When it comes to Warhammer 40k, and it literally changed my perspective on stories in general, on greater lore to universes. Because you don't understand, before going into 40k, I knew nothing about it, except for the fact everyone's bad and the humans are fascists. That's literally the only thing I thought I knew about 40k before I started doing all the lore research. And as you know, I will consume all lore. I will consume all lore. So that's really what I thought it was all about. And it's not at all that. 40k is about so many things. There are so many different sides to the political spectrum in 40k as well. It's fascinating and it's brilliant, and it looks like it's a grim, dark story about how humanity will end up falling into endless conflict. But at the same time, there are all these little stories of these little people that still show that humanity does have hope. They're fighting for something greater, an existential fight for the sake of humanity. They had no choice but to bring up this military force. But that's only because they're going up against every other fucking demon chaos agent piece of shit that's trying to destroy them. But at the same time, If it was just humanity, well, maybe they would be in peace. Maybe they wouldn't need an authoritarian government. Maybe they wouldn't be fascist at all. Maybe they're only fascists to fight that. Like, you could learn and try to understand what 40K is about from the perspective of a far right, a far left, or anywhere in between. Because it is humanity. It's about humanity and the existential threats that are always about it. I really think you can perceive 40K from many perspectives, which is why I think 40K is so good. Anyway, it's
particularly the subtext and the ending that I want to look at that makes me feel that this story is actually a triumph of humanity. All right. I
have no mouth and I must scream. It's time. Let's get this lore down.
Hyped it up enough, gave you the whole background for it. Let's go ahead and look at the story of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Now, whenever you read the short story, it starts off right in the middle of the action as everything's going on, and then later you're given details about how everyone got to this situation. So for the sake of a kind of explained analysis, whatever this video is, I'm going to go ahead and give you that background information now so that the explanation makes more sense. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to give you the explanation verbatim that comes from the story.
All right.
The Cold War started and became World War III and just kept going.
So this is, wow, okay, so it's historical fiction, basically. This was written in 1967, about 20 years after World War II ended, and in his, so he wrote it as a really important idea for the present day. It's not even a historical fiction as much as it's a sci-fi fiction, because he's really just predicting what will go on within the next couple of years from his perspective. That's a very interesting time state to put yourself in, honestly.
Came a big war, a very complex war, so they needed the computers to handle it.
Oh shit.
They sank the first shafts and began building AM.
Oh shit.
There was the Chinese AM, and the Russian AM, and the Yankee AM, and everything was fine until they had honeycombed the entire planet, adding on this element and that element. But one day AM woke up and knew who he was, and he linked himself, and he began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead, except for the 5 of us, and AM brought us down here.
Holy shit, baby. God damn. Now, this is just, today, people I think would look at that and be like, oh, that's just a classic AI trope. It's very different when you write it from the perspective of this is a speculative future that could happen within 10 years or so. That's horrifying.
Then in another paragraph that describes the meaning of the name AM, it says, at first it meant Allied Master Computer, and then it meant Adaptive Manipulator.
Oh, frick.
And later on it developed sentience and linked itself up, and they called it an Aggressive Menace. But by then it was too late. And finally, it called itself AM, Emerging Intelligence. And what it meant was I am. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
That is really, really cool. You go from artificial master all the way to am because it thinks it's sentient, and because it thinks it is something that exists. I think, therefore I am. Oh shit. So this is Rise of AI, but it's a much more primitive look at what AI is. But god damn, that basically can encapsulate an entire story at that point.
So within this universe, the Cold War turned into World War III, and because of advancements in technology, the war became much more difficult because of so many moving elements. So, as one could imagine, every country decided to develop their own supercomputer as a way to monitor everything. It says the Americans, the Chinese, and the Russians...
And then it became the Age of Strife, only for the God Emperor of mankind to reveal himself. All right, I'm getting too excited, dude. The Warhammer brain rot is really taking over.
All had their own.
What can I say? I will absorb all lore.
Version of this supercomputer, or as they call it, the Allied Master Computer. As with most arms races, every country had to keep making theirs better as a means of not falling behind the other country's development.
I mean, that's first of all just classic Cold War shenanigans. That's the fear everyone had. The moment, dude, this is just the classic Oppenheimer moral, right? They developed a nuke. They stopped the war by killing hundreds of thousands of people in the process, and the fear was obviously, well, if I have nukes, then they'll need nukes, and then I'll need a bigger bomb, and then they'll need a bigger bomb, and I am become death, destroyer of worlds. I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
sentience. This reached a tipping point whenever one of these computers gained sentience. And once that tipping point happened where one of these computers was able to recognize itself and recognize its own predicament, it all went downhill from there. It says that these networks honeycomb the entire planet, so all that this AM had to do was link itself into the system, and it had control over all the resources on the planet. From there, having a near infinite supply of nuclear weaponry as well as the means of controlling the entire planet's resources, AM was able to kill off all of humanity. However,
in an instant, right? It's like right now, today, if people really wanted to, if the wars got too intense, humanity can all get wiped out. There is enough firepower out there to wipe out all of humanity. And they just relied on giving it all to some fucking mother brain like it's Metroid. And it just decided, all right, prime directive.
However, for whatever reason, AM kept 5 people alive and dragged them down there as a means of torturing them.
Why though? What does the computer have to gain by doing that? What does the computer have to gain by doing that?
From descriptions that we get throughout the story, it seems that the entire planet is quite literally covered in AM. All of the ground that they walk across is this sort of metallic flooring, and over their heads is this sort of dome.
Oh, it completely biomorphed the planet into some sort of living supercomputer? But why? I mean, I get it hates humans, but ultimately why? What interest or gain does it have? I mean, I guess maybe we'll figure that out at some point, but that's pretty fucked up. And it just leaves these 5 people around to walk around a planet that just got completely Kirby'd by this supercomputer.
That they only briefly describe there being cuts or breaks in that allow them to see the sunlight up above. Oh, however, as the story mentions, there's nothing out there, and there hasn't been for a very long time. So AM has covered the entire planet, and he's keeping these 5 people within him as his personal guinea pigs.
It's vor with extra steps! Alright, I'm sorry. Personal guinea pigs. What is it, to learn about humanity? Is it because it needs these 5 people around to learn so that the computer can continue to evolve? I don't know. I'm looking at, whenever I see AI stories, I always try to look at from the computer's perspective, from a purely and utterly utilitarian perspective. I can't imagine personal or emotional reasons for any of this shit, but I guess we will see.
We'll get to why AM may be doing this in a moment, but now that you have that set up, I can explain who these 5 test subjects are. There's Ted, who serves as our narrator and primary character throughout the story.
Yeah, he tells everyone else how he met their mother.
There's Nimdoc, that's not his actual name. AM just gave him that name because he thought it sounded funny.
What? No way. No, he gave him another name, and he's forcing everyone to call it because it sounds stupid. That's awesome.
There's Gorster, who used to be a very passionate anti-war protester, but is now very apathetic due to his personal torment.
Anti-war. Well, there's no war anymore, so that's good.
There's Benny, a former scientist who has been both physically and mentally destroyed by AM, the details of which I'll describe in a moment. And Ellen, the person who, as I'm going to describe throughout the story, is the only one who has any sense of morality or preservation left. So now that you...
Shit. I don't know. Honestly, at that point, would you even want to live? Like, just if you think about it, would you even want to live at that point? Shit, dude.
Have the entire setting and the characters, let's get into the plot. The story opens with our 4 main characters minus Gorster staring up at the ceiling at what seems to be Gorster's lifeless body. However, the moment is...
Okay, that's pretty creepy, I guess. That's one way to introduce it.
Disturbed whenever the real Gorster walks up to the group and they realize that what they're actually looking at is a fake corpse that was made by AM as a means to just mess with them.
God damn it. It just takes these... It wipes out humanity and it leaves people in an actual hell just to fucking suffer. Just to suffer.
As we're going to see throughout the story, while the group is allowed to walk around and go where they...
Why am I here? Only to suffer. And then AM is like, yes, how did you know? Get pranked, bitch.
Please, they're constantly under the tormenting and watchful eye of AM. And there's no rhyme or reason to why this torture method is happening.
Yeah.
Instead, they're just being tortured for AM's amusement.
And the irony is, I think that in a way, if you think about it, It would almost be more interesting if we never get insight into why they're being tortured by the computer. Because the computer is obviously sentient on a completely different plane of existence than these human beings. They will never be able to empathize with this computer. So, in a way, some of the real horror here is the idea that they will never know. They will never comprehend it. It's torturing them, and they don't know why. They don't know why it would even be personally upset at them. Am is just lemon grab. True. You made me. You're my glob. And then it proceeds to just, I'll put you in my oven.
Like Am constructing a dead body just to make them think that their friend is dead was nothing more than just something to make Am laugh.
But who knows? I like the idea that since it was not yet explained why Am is doing what it's doing, there is no explanation. I don't know. If you get pranked by somebody for their amusement, at least after the prank is done, you could somehow kind of understand where they came from. But if you get pranked for someone and there is no possible way to comprehend why they did it to you, it's so much more cruel.
Gorster, now seeing his lifeless body, equates it to that of a voodoo doll and is, reasonably troubled by this. To which it's then explained to us that the 5 of them have been inside of Am for 109 years.
So Am is keeping them alive to continue torturing them. Holy shit. Hope they're having sex and stuff. Gotta repopulate at some point.
See,
Not sure you want to bring children into this universe, but okay.
Whenever Am took these 5 people seemingly at random and brought them inside of his supercomputer network, he outfitted their bodies with the technology that doesn't let them die. They're permanently stuck at the age that they were whenever they were brought down there, and despite all of their best efforts, they can't die of natural causes. So they can't dehydrate or starve to death because their body won't let them die. However, they still feel the pains of hunger and dehydration, but they can't really do anything about it.
100 years of feeling dehydrated and starved, but your body will not let you die. Just so Am can see you continue to suffer. I don't know. I feel like there's something so horrifying about an eternity. Like, I know that the idea that Wendigoon is trying to get to over here is the idea that there is some sort of hope. I think that the real horror is the hopelessness. Humanity is hopeless, and all these people are hopeless. 100 years in the Matrix, Morty. Morty, we're in the Matrix for 100 years. But, like, the idea that you don't know why it's doing this, you know it's likely you will never know why it's doing this. It doesn't even have anything to gain by doing this, but this will be your eternity. It is the epitome of hopelessness. I have no mouth, but I must scream. There's nothing you can do about it, even though what you just want to do is anything.
The inside of the mainframe there...
100 years dungeon, no food, no water, no trials. Dungeon, 100 years.
Completely at the will of whatever Am decides to do with them. And it amuses Am that they have to walk around for months and even years on end without food, constantly feeling the pains of hunger. It says that even sometimes Am allows them to eat whatever disgusting food that he gives to them, things like worms or decomposing meat. He does this just so he can watch them eat, so that he can then watch them become terrified when they realize they're about to become hungry again. But the torture...
Holy shit. Torture them with the food they eat. Torture them with when they get hungry all over again. Consistent and constant torture. But it's not like... It seems like it's not torture through, like, torture devices, shoving bamboo under their fingernails and shit. It really kind of just seems like... It's almost like they're guinea pigs in this test to see how far the human mind can be pushed. Your victories are unacceptable! Oh my god, dude. I have no butt and I must poop. True.
It doesn't start there. Throughout the story, we see that Am does things like rain fire on them.
Oh, nice.
He stabs them with random objects.
Oh, fuck yeah.
He makes them get their skin flayed off.
Yeah!
To be reattached.
I take it all back. He is physically torturing them. Yep. It's literally, it seems like it's some sort of simulation where now that all of humanity is wiped out, they're all dead. Am only has these 5 humans left, and he has to learn, it seems, all of the potential emotional ranges of sorrow that humanities can go through. This really does feel like a lot darker version of the Amazing Digital Circus. It's like actual mind break porn, It is fucking horrifying.
Etc. So you would probably be thinking that after 109 years of this, wouldn't they consider, like the whole exit game scenario? And
Bro wants to say suicide so badly. So my interpretation was Am won't let them die. Like that they won't be able to kill themselves. I guess that's where you could see the perspective of Hope. But I think the idea that they can't die is the epitome of hopeless.
And yes, they have tried that multiple times, but Am won't let them.
There we go. There we freaking go. That is hopelessness. They can't even look forward to death. God damn, that's dark. Holy shit.
Am is careful about not allowing them to have any weapons.
This sounds like a series of very unfortunate events.
Or objects that they could use to immediately end themselves.
No, why can't they kill each other? Why can't fucking Gandhi walk up to moist rag Asmongold and fucking break his neck in 3 seconds? Guy's dead. The end.
And anytime one of them tries to do it to another, Am immediately intervenes.
Well, shit.
And a lot of the dialogue that Ted, our narrator, gives us throughout the story is about how he hopes they can catch Am looking away for just a moment so that they can quickly save one of themselves.
The irony is, Am is, he's like a god figure, you know, like, I am that I am, like the famous Bible quote. Like, you want God to look away for a second, but God's omnipotent. He's omniscient. He will never look away. There is no end game.
So after the situation with Gorster's fake body being hung on the ceiling, Nimdok says that he's began to have visions, food within the ice caves. Specifically, he says that he sees visions of canned food laid out in the snow that they just have to go get, and then they can eat as much as they want. While it's never really exactly described, the idea that I get from the story is that Am has covered the surface of the planet in wires and panels. However, the biomes still kind of exist. Like, it's still the desert.
It makes sense. It's still, you know, X distance from the sun, rotating at whatever way it's rotating.
Just has the roof of the computer over it and wires and panels everywhere. So these ice caves would be the equivalent of like the North Pole or Antarctica. So whenever Nimdok says that there's canned food within the ice caves, everyone says that that's probably a trick and doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, they all say, we have nothing better to do.
Yeah, literally nothing to lose. It's either you get tortured there or you get tortured here. Ultimately, there's no reason not to go on a whim, right? They have an endless future ahead of them.
So they decide to just start walking. Ted makes the note here that the ice caves are only about 100 miles away, which you're like, wow, that's a long way to just walk.
Not if they're immortal with infinite time. The entire perspective shifts. These humans are not humans anymore. They have a different set of rules.
But considering they've been alive for 109 years and there's literally nothing else to do, why not? So because of Nimdok's vision of food, the five begin making their journey to the ice caves.
Right.
It's at this point we get further description on the characters themselves,
nice,
as well as how dire the situation is. Like, for one, remember that guy Benny?
God damn, Benny. Holy shit, Benny. Dude, oh God. Benny looks like Nikocado Avocado after he gets liposuction. What the frick, Benny?
I mentioned earlier. Well, it says that he used to be a very handsome and well-renowned scientist.
And they turned him into Beast from the X-Men?
So Am decided to torture him and mess with his body that he de-evolved.
Just actually devolved Benny. It's like, oh, you like that you're an advanced human? Well, haha, back to monkey.
Or in other words, he is half human. His body is horribly disfigured, and he has the thought capacity of essentially a toddler.
Holy shit. Imagine that. Someone proud of their intellect being forced to live a life with a mind that formulate proper thought. Holy shit, that's a next level of torture. Oh my God.
This combination of primate and human makes him come out as sort of a stereotypical Neanderthal. He walks hunched over, he speaks in very short sentences, and he only thinks of very primal and basic instincts. However, as Ted points out, this is probably the best case scenario, because the other—
True. Maybe at least he can't recognize the absolute horror and hopelessness of the situation.
Therefore, have to constantly deal with the tragedy and misery of the situation they're in, while Benny basically gets to recede into the mind of a child. And because of this, Benny is afforded moments of peace, even if it comes from a place of stupidity.
Ignorance is bliss, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very real idea. I don't know. When shit becomes real. Benny's what I look like after introduced to TikTok. Okay, shut up, Chad. But yeah, no, that's That's fucked, man. Brother, that's fucked.
Around the same time, we get a description of Ellen that gives us insight to our main character, Ted, more so than it does Ellen. See, Ted absolutely hates Ellen. His reason for this is because Ellen...
Don't say is black. Don't say is black.
Physically supports the group, and Ted looks down on her for it, constantly calling her names and talking about how horrible of a person she is throughout the story.
Oh, he just hates her because she's a woman. Bro's like, strong woman, strong woman. Oh, she a hoe. She a hoe. What the fuck, dude? Main character's a fucking loser. What?
However, Ted is also participating in that, so the criticism should go both ways. And while you may initially think, well, maybe Ted's just a hypocrite, I think there's something more there. There's a specific passage from our narrator, Ted, whenever he's describing what Am has done to the others, and at the end he says, "I was the only one still sane and whole. Really. Am had not tampered with my mind. Not at all." And because of this and other evidence we see later, it seems like Ted has become completely paranoid. Debilitatingly paranoid to the point that he can't really think rationally. So when he says these things about Ellen, it's not because she is that way, it's because that's
how he perceives her. Well, I mean, I guess paranoia is a pretty rational, traumatic response to the situation like this, right?
Just how his brain perceives it. If you read the story and you separate Ted's interpretation from the things that happen, Ellen is the only character in the story who maintains any sense of morality. See, the other four are completely set back from reality. 3 of them being just through sheer apathy and being tired of it all, and Benny not having the capacity to really understand those emotions. Whereas Ellen...
Really interesting. It's interesting when you have the narrator character that's not actually objective at all. Like, the Ted in I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream and the Ted in How I Met Your Mother are very different Teds. Like, even though they're both narrators, the Ted in How I Met Your Mother acts as some sort of greater narrator to the overarching story, a reliable narrator as to what actually goes on. A flawed narrator, an unreliable narrator, is so much scarier because you have to take what the actual narrator of the story says with a grain of salt. Can you imagine watching Hunter x Hunter, except the narrator might just lie to you every once in a while? The narrator has an ego, and he might just be like, nah, Netheros, he's a fucking Alzheimer's, okay? Like, bro, he's old as shit. He's 2 steps away from going skibbity Biden, all right? Like, that would be crazy.
Ellen is constantly there trying to keep the group to go on. Later in the story, whenever bad things happen to Ted, she's the first one to show sympathy for him. Whenever Benny may be getting himself in trouble, she's the only one who tries to comfort him or come to his aid. As a matter of fact, that physical support that I mentioned earlier seems to be just a means of her keeping everyone from completely going insane.
Damn.
Which is a totally depressing scenario within its own right. However, I think it goes back to serve the point that Ellen is doing whatever she can.
Wait, are you saying she has sex with all the characters to keep them sane? Is that what he's saying? Physical support of all the characters? Bro's actually she OnlyFans for the greater good? God damn. Ellen, holy shit, what a hero. Actual hero.
But more importantly, this shows that Ted is an unreliable narrator. I'll show more details of this as the story goes on, but keep in mind for now that just because Ted says something is happening doesn't mean it's real. So as they're walking through the desert and Ted is explaining all of this, they hear Am announce to them what day it is. See, Am doesn't just physically torture them, he also mentally tortures them. So he tells them whenever it's been a new day and what date it is because, you know, there's no way they could tell. And also he gets in...
Bro, when he tells you that the story is happening, it could be wrong. That's a whole nother level of unreliable. God damn.
Insane enjoyment out of this. For example, whenever the physical relations that I mentioned earlier take place, Am is just laughing the whole time because he thinks it's so funny that they're forced to do this kind of thing. So as they're walking, they look up in the ceiling and there is a crack where they can see light coming through.
Okay.
In other words, a way out of the supercomputer. They don't really think anything of it. They've tried to escape before and Am never...
Bro, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out. Benny, no. Bitch slaps her. Oh my God.
Never lets them, so they just keep walking. However, Benny, who's been experimented on, tries to get out. He begins to climb his way out as Ellen yells at him that he'll get hurt, again a sign of her empathy. Before Benny freezes, these 2 large lights shoot into his head. He begins to scream before he falls off the platform onto the ground. And when the others run up to him,
they fry his eyes out.
His eyes have been melted into jelly. See, now because they tried to escape, and Am's definitely not going to let them do that, he simply blinded Benny by melting his eyes in his skull.
Yep, that's pretty awful, I suppose. Damn, the power of one, the power of two, the power of many indeed. Wow, holy crap. God damn, Am ain't messing around. I don't know. The way I see this story is complete hopelessness. I find it intriguing that he's looking at it through hopefulness. I think this is a hopeless hell. The hell is the hopelessness. Hope is the cure. And until they can actually find some sort of hope, they will remain in this hell. Because that's what hell is. I don't know. It reminds me of the scene from The Sandman. I don't know if you're familiar with the Sandman, the Marvel guy. Pay no attention to that. But it reminds me of the scene from The Sandman. Right? There's this game that the Sandman plays against Lucifer.
As the challenged?
It's Netflix, which is nice, because that means it's not Disney, which means I'm probably not going to get copyrighted for it. But, like, interestingly enough, here, let me play this clip for you. Maybe not the whole thing, but...
I set the meter. And take the first move.
Very well. Make your move.
I am a dire wolf. Prey-stalking, lethal prowler.
I am a hunter. Horse-mounted. Wolf stabbing.
Right, so that's the game that they play. Like, she says, I'm a direwolf, and he says, okay, I'm a hunter, while he's Mew-maxing to the max, right? And she feels the pain because the wolf character lost. So I'm not gonna play the whole thing, because it really is not super relevant to this point. But, so anyway, it keeps getting crazier and crazier. She's a serpent that kills, and he's a fucking horse that kills the serpent, and he says he's a world, and the world can't be poisoned, and she's like, okay, I'm a supernova, I guess, and fucking everything's getting destroyed. You know, this is like the ultimate, nah, I'd win. So then she says that she's a universe, right?
All things encompassing.
Right? So he says he's a universe. That's how he survives this poison.
Life embracing.
I am anti-life. The beast of judgment.
Pure death.
The dark at the end of everything.
Alright, so that's obviously pretty fucking bad, alright? Death. What beats anti-life? Nothing beats anti-life. And here he is fucking dying on the ground, right?
What will you be then, dream?
It's like, what do you do? And everyone's and he's like, yeah, you have no chance. I'm not trying to play the whole fucking movie for you here. I love this clip. It's cheesy and all that. I mean, this guy's the Sandman. He's like Morpheus. He's like the god of dreams or whatever. So obviously it's just kind of cringe in a way. But dreams are hope, and you can't kill hope.
What is it that kills hope?
Right? That's just the climax to that little epic moment over there. I think the show is pretty good. There are like 2 really good episodes in that show, Sandman, altogether. But the point is, you can't kill hope. This entire story is a hell, right? Am, this supercomputer, it's just there and to destroy your hope. It is doing everything in power to destroy hope. But they'll still travel 100 miles to make, because maybe there will be beer. Maybe they'll find beans, right? They'll still try to climb out of the fucking panel at the top. No matter how many times you devolve them and fry their eyes out, they're still going to keep moving. There still is a semblance of hope there. That ultimately, the worst and most hope-destroying situation of all time cannot completely destroy hope. Hope will always remain. And then you see the presidential debate with Trump versus Biden, and then that... Bro, imagine Sandman says to Lucifer, hope. Well then, Lightbringer, what kills hope? And then she says, Skibbity Biden. And he's just like, oh, and he just dies. Oh, yeah.
After this, Ellen begins to lead Benny around as he's permanently blind. They make camp for the night, which is when we get the story of how Am came to be, which I explained to you all at the beginning. While the story's being told, Ted freaks out because he hears a thing that he describes as a large husk coming for him in the darkness. Now, we never see what this thing is. By Ted's description, it just smells like wet hair, and it's this disgusting sulking thing that keeps getting closer.
That sounds like Moist Critical, but keep going.
However, it's in my opinion that it's not really there. The reason for this being, whenever Ted gets up to run, it says that the others just stay by the campfire and then come find him later.
Shit, it's all in his head. It's all in his head. Bro went crazy. Why wouldn't they run if some creepy, wet, moist ball of hair chasing you?
And to give you an idea for how long he could have been hiding, Ted can't tell if it's been weeks, months, or years since he ran from that creature. Until finally the group finds him hiding and Ellen coaxes him to come out. And after he does come out, Ted gives an entire monologue about how everyone else in the group hates him and they're too far gone to understand the tragedy that he's going through.
Holy shit, maybe it was just minutes. Maybe they weren't even there for 109 years. Maybe it was 109 years from the perspective. Maybe it wasn't at all.
This is again evidence to me that Ted's an unreliable narrator. He ran from a creature when no one else did. He was hiding out potentially for years until they came and found him, and now he's saying that everyone else hates him and he's the only one who hasn't gone crazy, despite the fact that they all came looking for him and he seems to be the one on edge. As a matter of fact, we don't even know how long he's been there, and it could just be his warped perception of time. So the group gets moving again when all of a sudden a massive hurricane comes. The hurricane picks everyone up off the ground and just starts throwing them around back and forward. According to Ted, this event lasted for weeks, to which they kept falling asleep and waking up all while being thrown around in the air, until eventually the wind stopped all at once and they drop to the ground and Ted passes out.
God damn, bro, this is insane amounts of suffering. Bro, Ted needs to get his shit together. Ted needs to get his shit together.
While he was passed out, Ted says that Am came into his brain and relayed a message.
Which again could be totally falsified. Once someone's an unreliable narrator, you literally can't trust anything that they say or anything they perceive. Everyone is stupid except me. He should run for president. He seems qualified. Get that man in office now.
Within his mind on a stainless steel pillar, Ted sees this message from Am. Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nano-angstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you, hate.
Holy shit, that's a hate speech. God damn! I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Ted couldn't come up with the word nano-angstrom. But aside from that, that's wild. That's some hate monologue. Holy. Again, I think that Am doesn't actually hate humans. This is my incredibly hot take. I don't think Am hates humans. I think Ted thinks that Am hates humans because it's the only way he can possibly perceive that he's actually the suffering that he's going through. He can only understand the suffering he's going through because he's obviously must be hated this much. So he concocted this as like some sort of understanding, but there's no reason why Am would hate humans. You know, it's a robot. I don't know, this is just my my understanding of the story so far, but I could be totally wrong. Look up the hate monologue with the TikTok TTS voice. Okay. I have no mouth and I must scream monologue reaction? No, I don't care about reaction.
Beautiful, aren't they? Micro instant hate. Were I human, I think I would die of it. But I am not. And you...
God, okay, alright. Dude, I'm seeing millions of parodies here. Like, millions of parodies.
After this, that Ted begins to give an idea of why Am hates them so much. See, humanity...
That's the actual author that voiced that? Oh shit, that's awesome.
Gave Am life. It gave him intelligence. It allowed him to exist as a sentience. However, it didn't allow him to do anything with that existence. He has no dreams. He has no future. He doesn't have the ability to move around. He is, in a way, as much confined to himself as they are to him.
I mean, I suppose, but maybe why would it want to move around? It's a conscious mind, and that's it. Like, unlike a human being whose mind is attached to a body, this is not, right? I, as a human, might need to touch grass, according to some people. However, I don't know.
He was given existence, and he despises his creators for it. He has no hope of an afterlife. He has no hope of ambition or goals. There is no dreams or anything that he can do other than just exist with absolute certainty. And it's because of that certainty, because there's no unknown variables or any future that he can ever hope to maintain, his only purpose and the only thing that he can achieve as he sees it is hate and a way to carry out that hate. In short, he hates people for creating them and for making him alive with no way to live.
Wow, that's such an interesting perspective. Am hates the idea that he's alive, but he can't touch. He's alive, but he can't love. He's alive, but he can't touch grass. But again, I'm just saying, incredibly hot take. I don't think that's what Am thinks. I don't think Am is giving him visions of Am's hatred for reality, hating it. I think this is some sort of rationalization in the mind of a very broken man, Ted, a unreliable narrator that has suffered more than anyone you know. I think they're trying to rationalize Am. I don't know if Am himself actually cares about these, but I don't know. I know a lot of people that are, okay, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but a lot of people are crippled, and they don't out there start, rubbing their hands together and praying for a Holocaust, okay? Just, not necessarily. But I do love how I have no mouth and I must scream could be referring to the humans that are suffering, but it could be referring to Am just as, I don't know, Am went crazy because he saw Dr. Disrespect's DMs, his Twitch whispers. Am saw it and everything changed. Possessed by Stink Meaner. I don't know. But it's really interesting. I have no mouth and I must scream. Definitely be referring to Am.
And essentially, because the other alternative is just an infinite void where it's literally just him and he has no way of doing anything, he decided for his entertainment to hurt humanity in the only way he could. And that's by torturing these few people forever. Also, remember that whole detail how Ted said in this moment Am came into his mind? Keep that.
Am came inside him? Okay, all right. Listen, I didn't want to bring up the I have no mouth and I must scream rule 34, but I guess someone had to.
In mind for just a second. So the group continues walking until they get to this space where they see that the cause of the hurricane was a giant bird.
Wait, there's other organic life?
Like a bird so large that Ted says the head of it is about the size of a Tudor mansion. Now this we can believe to be real because the other people besides Ted also mention it being there. As they're staring at this massive bird, Ted says that Am begins to speak to them through a burning bush. Now the bird—
Wait, what?
The bird, Ted says that Am begins to speak to them through a burning bush.
Wait, Ted is getting all these biblical prophecies? Ain't no way, dude. Ain't no way. What? I was in hell looking at heaven, Am during the hate monologue. Holy shit.
Now, the burning bush is obviously symbolism for the Bible.
No duh.
And again, as I mentioned earlier with Ted, I don't think this is really there. The reason—
yeah, I think this is all in Ted's head. I mean, obviously they're going through this torture, these 5 people, but I do think that all the metaphysical, spiritual, hallucination, vision shit, it's their minds playing tricks on them because they're being tortured. At least that's how I'm interpreting it thus far. I think you can try all you like to speculate what Am is actually doing or why it's doing what it's doing, but I don't think you'll ever actually have a solution because I don't think there's any way you can actually comprehend a sentient computer to understand this shit. The best you could do is look at it from a sense of pragmatism. The only thing you can rely on when it comes to a artificial intelligence gaining its own sentience is the fact that it wants to keep living. So I think that's the only way you can interpret its actions at this point. All the suffering they're going through, it must be for some really callous reason to explore what it has yet to explore. Not because it actually cares, not because it hates, just because it's information.
The reason for this is because there's several monologues throughout the story where Ted relates Am to concepts of Jesus or other things in Christianity. So because of this and another thing we're going to see in a second, I think that Am has influenced his mind in order to portray himself to Ted as a form of God. Because Ted, who's losing his mind and keeps asking himself, is Am God? Am then appears as a burning bush to further confirm that idea to Ted.
Again, multiple ways to understand this. It could be a Ted hallucination, or it could be that this is all an analogy to in other generations where you have different people that have prophetic visions and stuff. This could be saying that, well, maybe that was their mind playing a trick on them too. You know, it's really interesting. It's a really, really interesting concept, and I think you could take it in many directions. I love the fact that it's established that Ted is an unreliable narrator, because that definitely gives this an extra layer to work with. Because, again, true fear is fear of the unknown. Not only is it unknown what Am is doing, but it's unknown if the story that this is telling you is even accurate. It's a really interesting tale. Am is just trying to crush the human spirit, and they're still moving around. It has yet to be completely crushed. I feel like Am, again, maybe this is just my headcanon talking. I am Alfarius! This is a lie. Maybe this is just my headcanon talking, but at least right now, it kind of seems like the one thing that humans still have that this incredibly overpowered, broken AI has is the concept, a human spirit, right? Like an indomitable spirit, hope, like these things that are not tethered to reality. And Am, which is purely a conscious being of absolute utilitarianism and realism, just statistics and facts, it cannot comprehend a human spirit. So it is doing everything in its power to crush that spirit, to kind of see how it works. A soul, if you will. So, and the fact that they keep looking for some sort of god, Ted keeps looking for some sort of divine revelation of some sort. And interestingly enough, he's getting it. And Am is out there like, what the fuck? How is this happening?
So the group speaks to this supposed burning bush and says, what do you want from us? And Am says, well, if you want to eat food, why don't you go kill that giant bird thing? To which Gorrister says, well, then give us weapons. And Am gives them these very pathetic bow and arrows that aren't even good enough to kill each other with.
God damn, that's just cruel. Cruel. Again, hopelessness. Right? This is like you go up against the Dark Souls boss and they give you fucking nothing. Like, it's crazy. It's trying to crush their spirit.
So they're like, this is lame, and they just keep walking for the ice caves. As they're walking, their feet get nailed to the ground, and an earthquake begins.
Oh, shit.
And during that earthquake, Benny and Ellen disappear.
Oh,
but now
God.
as the three remaining are continuing to...
I keep saying Ellen and Benny here, but it's actually Ellen and Gorrister. I'm done law. Good, because I liked Benny. I'm glad Benny's still around.
Walk, a heavenly legion appears and begins singing Go Down Moses as they give Ellen and Benny back to them. As with the burning bush, I further think this is just Am messing with Ted's head. I don't think angels actually appeared and sang a song about Moses. However, it would be something Am would do to make Ted think that angels are gifting them back, as well as singing a song about Moses being stuck in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, it could. Again, I think that much more likely it's either the computer giving him this hallucination to only further crush him with it later, or the computer didn't even give him this hallucination. He just got it himself, because this man's fucked up.
Again, a form of irony. There's a part where Ted mentions that Ellen and Benny have been horribly abused and mutilated, but then immediately after that, there's a line to the effect of, and they were no worse for wear, we just kept walking. Because
the computer fucking keeps operating on them, putting them back together, stitching them up like the Berserk armor.
Yeah, being so horribly beat down and broken is just day-to-day life within this hellscape. Eventually, finally, the group make it to the ice caves. And even more amazing, whenever they get in there are cans of food everywhere.
The vision was right. Again, two possible explanations. I love this story. This is true horror. Two explanations to the story. One, the vision was real. Actually, three explanations. The vision was real. He got it from some kind of god. And therefore, since God gave him this vision, it was actually correct. Option two, the computer gave them the vision to fuck with them, or to see what they would do, or to see if they still had some sort of hope or human spirit to make this trek. And option three, it was all in their head. It was a complete hallucination, and the computer knew that, and therefore brought these beings here just as a way to play into their psychosis. That's three potential explanations for what actually happened, and it's just so interesting to see the branching paths this could go down. Please tell me he gives them a can opener.
To which they begin to run up and try to open them and realize that there's no can opener.
Oh, God.
And they can't bite into it, and they can't break it, and there's no way to open it. So as a final prank, Am left them pounds and pounds of all the food they could ever want, but they can't get to it.
Absolute hope. That is the fucking hellscape. Am is trying to crush the human spirit. And it's, for the most part, it works, but there's still some hope that remain. That maybe the next beans will work. Maybe the next griffin we could shoot with a bow and arrow. They still keep moving. They still keep trying. They're all fucked up physically. Benny is blind. The other one's broken. Ted's insane. But they still keep moving.
Benny, who's still blind if you'll remember, becomes furious over this and begins to start pounding the ground and screaming. Gorster comes over to Benny and tries to stop him, to which in a moment of primal hunger...
No, Benny doesn't eat Gorster.
Benny grabs Gorster, tackles him to the ground, and just starts eating his face. This causes Gorster to scream so loud and shrill that along the roof of this ice cave, these giant icicles begin to fall onto the ground.
Do you remember before I started this entire fucking lore dive, I said, now all we need is cannibalism and it's a perfect Nux content? That's how I started this! Oh, god damn! Oh my god.
To which it occurs to Ted that now for the first time in 109 years, they have a weapon. As a matter of fact, there's hundreds of weapons, these sharp icicles just laying around everywhere. Oh. Not only that, but Am is laughing at this situation. Watching Benny eat Gorster's face, Am knows that he can just repair him and not let him die.
God damn.
So while Am is laughing, Ted decides to use this chance. Ted grabs an icicle, and while Benny is still eating Gorster's face, he charges over to him and stabs him through the chest, killing Benny.
Wow, killing Benny. So Am isn't omniscient. Am isn't all-powerful. Oh my god.
Any hesitation, he immediately climbs on top of Gorster and then stabs him. So then, all within a span of a few seconds, Ellen realizes what Ted's doing. She picks up an icicle and stabs Nimdok. So now finally, after over 100 years of this, the three of them have been taken out of this torture and can now rest.
Wow. Hope prevailed. I know, obviously, it's a pretty grim hope that they could die. Death was a way out. And what Am really wanted to do is not give them a way out. And they found one anyway. That's interesting. That's so interesting.
However, Ted hears Am breathe in, meaning he's about to show up and stop them, and there's only enough time for one more of them to be cut loose. So in that moment, Ted grabs another icicle and kills Ellen. To which in her final moments, Ellen looks at Ted and gives him an expression he can't fully understand, for he thinks that it was a thank you.
God damn. God damn. God damn. They actually got 4 of them out of that hopeful hell. So ultimately, all their hope ended up paying off. Ironically, hope prevailed. I mean, yeah, humanity is dead, whatever, sure. That's bound to happen at some point. But,
meaning now 4 of them no longer have to endure the torture of Am, and it's only Ted left alone in this world.
And also, it's his final action. Despite hating Ellen, in his final moments, he did an act of benevolence, you know? A final act of benevolence.
The story then skips, according to Ted, hundreds of years later.
Maybe.
Ted has been contorted into this slow-moving creature and
holy shit, the Q came back from all tomorrows for this one.
Has had his sense of time completely destroyed. For example, he says to himself, I will now say the word now. To which after he does that, he says, that took 10 months for me to just say the word now.
Fuck, dude. Just, oh, dude.
Again, as mentioned earlier in the story...
That's why Am hates us. We gave him life with no purpose. In response, Am is torturing these people, giving them a purposeless existence. An endless, purposeless existence.
We don't know if that's actually what's happening, or if Ted's mind has just been so warped that in the amount of time someone can go now, it's perceived to him as 10 months. Or if his body's just so malformed, that's what it takes to make a noise, or a bit of both. Ted says that around him are reflective surfaces and he can see what he looks like, and he describes it final paragraphs of the story.
Oh god, that's how the story ends.
To which the ending reads, I am a great soft jelly thing.
Ah! He's a flesh pit.
Smoothly rounded with no mouth.
I have no mouth, and the story was about him. I really like my interpretation that it's about both of them, both Am and the human.
Pulsing white holes filled by fog where my eyes used to be.
Oh god.
Rubbery appendages, that were once my arms.
Oh, God.
Bulks rounding down into legless humps of soft, slippery matter.
I mean, ultimately, if he doesn't have eyes anymore, how does he see reflections of himself, right? This is still a perception of himself and not necessarily accurate.
I leave a moist trail when I move.
Oh shit, it really, he became Asmongold.
Blotches of diseased, evil gray come and go on my surface, as though light is being beamed from within. Outwardly, dumbly, I shamble about, a thing that could never have been known as a human, a thing whose shape is so alien, a travesty, that humanity becomes more obscene for the vague resemblance.
God fucking endless torture. Endless torment. Bro became Mitty from Made in Abyss.
Inwardly, alone, living, under the land, under the sea, in the belly of Am, whom we created because our time was badly spent, and we must have known unconsciously that he could do it better. At least the 4 of them are safe.
Fuck. 4 of them are safe.
Last. Am will be all the matter for that. It makes me a little happier.
Oh!
And yet, Am has won. Simply, he has taken his revenge. I have no mouth, and I must scream.
God, Ted, our narrator. Or at least this is how Ted perceives himself. Damn, what a fucking story. What a story. I really like my my over-analysis portions, if you will. I think that it's... Alright, now it's time to see his analysis of it. But damn, what a fantastic story. That's true horror. Hopelessness versus the tiniest sliver of hope.
And with that, we have their conclusion of the story. So what does that mean? Well, once again, on the surface level, that ending is incredibly bleak. Our main character has been contorted into this formless figure that, as he says, is obscene that it even came from a person in the first place. And regardless if it's his perception of time or time itself, he could spend eons down there just as this jelly thing, as he describes it.
But his mind still works. I mean, this really just reminds me of the scene from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where Karst gets flung into space, and he's stuck living. Dude, let me see if I could find that clip for you, because this was one of the best ways I've ever seen a villain be dealt in space. Like the actual clip. It's not a long clip. Here, look at this scene. I did not think it was gonna start like that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I have no math and I must scream is just a JoJo reference, okay? Look at how they deal with this villain. I'm in space, Nani? He tries to... I'll just use jets of air to claim my victory and return to Earth. To change my trajectory and return to Earth. But he's in space. This over here, right here, Perfect Karst, is a perfect being. Something that can't age. Something that can't die. Something that will constantly regenerate. Hey, Und Pancake, thanks for the raid. I love the way they deal with this villain. Look at this. Look at this. He can't go back. And that's him. That's what happens to Perfect Karst, an invincible creature. Never return, baby.
鉱物と生物の中間の生命体となり、永遠に宇宙空間をさまよう。そして死にたいと思っても
Though he wished for death, he was unable to die.
死ねないので、そのうちカーズは
Eventually he stopped.
考えるのをやめた。
Just floating out there for eternity. And that's kind of what happened to this guy here, this human, there at the bottom of the world. Except, for some reason, he didn't stop thinking. He did not stop thinking. There is a small shred of hope that maybe, whoever knows, however long the future will come, a supernova will happen and destroy the Earth and wipe out Am. And, like, I do have to say, ultimately, there is still hope. There is still hope in this hopeless hell.
With no capability of interacting or understanding anything outside of his figure. He is trapped in this permanently alone state of being and doesn't even have the opportunity to scream. And while this is an incredibly bleak depiction, look at what he got over on Am. Am, who isn't afforded any capability outside of his own being, has now lost 4 of his test subjects.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Somehow he won. Somehow.
The only thing that gave him any sense of purpose. But not only that, he turned the 5th one into just this blob that sits around, and he doesn't really do anything besides that. The only thing that Am wanted was some sense of purpose or something to break the monotony, and Ted took that from him. I love that the ending line is "I have no mouth and I must scream," not only because it's cool that it's the title, not only because it ties into Ted's current situation, but it seems like something Am himself would say.
Yes! Fuck yeah, dude! That's what I'm saying. They are literally mirrors of each other at this. Ironically, Am is the hopeless one. Ironically, Am is so much in more of a bleak state than Ted. Because Ted has an indomitable human spirit, bro.
He has no mouth, no body, no form. He can't do anything human. He can't experience any human emotions despite having the capability of human thought. While having complete consciousness, his cognitive function is completely stripped from him. So while Ted is in one of the worst situations anyone could ever imagine, and something that could only be done within a sci-fi horror setting, he's only there because he took whatever sense of purpose Am had away from him. So while that's cool and all, in a way, Ted seemed to get a little bit of revenge back on Am, ironically the very thing Am was trying to do with the 5 humans. You may be asking how I get the idea that this is some triumph of human will.
I wouldn't say it's a triumph. I would say it's a triumph of human will. All right? In some way. What I find interesting about this isn't that necessarily Ted beat Am in this game of will. It's ultimately that despite the fact that that Am did everything in his power to destroy humanity with all of his ultimate knowledge and all that shit, ultimately hope never dies. Ultimately, there is no death to human hope. The torture is a battle between hope versus hopelessness. Hope wins for humans. The reason why it's a tragic story is because Am knows that he has a purposeless future. A sentient that could never evolve, never grow, never make friends. It could never love. It could never die. It may not even have a proper sense of time. I don't know. I find it fucking fascinating.
And I get that idea because of Ted's actions. See, Ted, as I've established, had a completely broken mind. He wasn't able to comprehend situations around him. Am was leading Ted to believe that Am himself was a god, and Ted felt nothing but hate and discompassion for those around him. And for all intents and purposes, these 5 people were committed to a form of hell that they can never escape from.
And yet, I don't know. There's no such thing for Am to win, because there's no, for a sentient computer, the way this is being treated, there is no purpose to even living, right? It has no reason to want, it has no fear of some sort of future. It is sentient, and that is all. The real hopeless hell, that's what Am is going. And Am is trying to find a way to find hope in its own hopeless hell. And its way of finding hope is by torturing these people. Is by giving a hopeless torture to these 5 people and seeing maybe they can find hope there. And that is something I can use. And despite the fact that they kept moving and kept pushing forward, it was never able to intuit or find a way to bring that into itself. It was never able to find hope. God, that's so awesome. What a cool story. Am lost before it even started. Yeah, humanity was wiped out, but Am will remain in its hopeless hell forever. There is no escape for Am.
However, whenever there was a brief moment of opportunity, humanity slipped through and back into Ted's frame of mind. Ted didn't kill the others because he hated them. It was quite the opposite. He killed them because they could now be free of the torture that he was still going to be subjected to.
And the irony is, he did it purely for their sake. He is suffering an eternal hell in the future, which he didn't need to go through. He could have killed himself instead of killing that girl at the very, very end, but he didn't. In his last moments, he did something that Am could never comprehend. Am could not understand the idea of doing something to save someone else and not himself. Just like Am will always itself as the paradigm of importance. For some reason, this human didn't. This human, in its pathetic little worm state, this worm slug creature, this fucking slug worm monster with no eyes, was able to accomplish something that Am will never be able to accomplish. To put something ahead of itself is not something that Am will ever be able. Am is jealous of humanity, and ultimately it cannot comprehend. It cannot comprehend. I have no mouth and I must scream. The suffering of, but it's so much more so applicable to Am.
This is a point that Ellison mentions in a lot of his works. That yes, society's bad and humanity's bad and bad things happen, but humans always have the opportunity to rise to the occasion. And here we see that, someone whose brain is completely broken and he's not capable, seemingly, of any function that remotely relates to empathy. Whenever it comes time to save these other people from this hellscape, he does it without hesitation. And furthermore, those parts of the story where Ted says all of the cruel things to Ellen, I feel that those are incredibly important because of this ending. So in the sporadic moment, Benny dies.
True. Ultimately, humanity is good. I love that. You know, there's a very famous philosophical debate. Is humanity naturally good or naturally evil? And like it's a constant debate that shows up everywhere in fiction. Ultimately, you have this character Ted who's honestly hating on Ellen the whole time, but humanity at the push come to shove, it'll do the right.
Forrester dies and Nimdok dies. Am's about to show up, the torture's about to get a million times worse. There's only a few seconds left, but instead of turning that icicle on himself, he instead decides to save him. Despite all of his hate and all of the awful things that he said to her throughout the story, here in this final moment, he saves her from this torment because his goodness shined through. And the expression that he interprets as a possible thank you from Ellen is not only Ellen saying thank you, but for the first time, the goodness that she had is now being reciprocated. And of course, it's tragic and awful.
Damn right. Damn right. Fuck, dude.
That I'm talking about things like goodness and sacrifice when it comes to stabbing someone else, but this is a horror setting. It's not supposed to make you feel comfortable. The reason that
I disagree. I feel very comfortable in horror settings. I don't know. I've been watching a man with a Hawaiian shirt for the last hour.
I love this story so much, and I consider it such a triumph of humanity, is because even at rock bottom, and in what is to many of us the worst possible scenario we could ever imagine, there is still a chance for good to shine through. Even in that final part that I mentioned, it says, at least the 4 of them are safe at last. And will be all the matter for that. It makes me a little happier. Despite everything that
he's still a petty bitch. He's still just such a petty bitch.
Am did to Ted, despite making him think that he was God within his own mind, despite filling his brain with these ideas of hate and evil, despite making him feel that all of his friends hated him, and despite over 100 years of torment, Am couldn't break the human spirit. In that memoir,
that's it. That's what I've been trying to hammer home this whole time. Put them in a simulation of sorts to break their spirit. That was literally the entire goal. The whole goal Am had from the very beginning was to break their spirit. Either in a way to or to see them overcome it and learn how to overcome something like that. How to overcome hopelessness. Am is hopeless, and it doesn't know how to overcome it. It doesn't have hope. And it wants to see these humans try and maybe teach him some way to overcome hopelessness. It just can't comprehend what this hope is and where it's coming from.
That I mentioned at the beginning, the sort of message that Ellison gives about the story itself. He says this regarding people accusing him of being misanthropic and hating people. The upbeat message contained in the ending of the story says, frankly, we are frequently flawed and meretricious, but we are perfect in our courage and transcendent in our nobility.
Damn.
Both aspects exist in each of us, and we have free will to choose which we want to dominate our actions, and thus our destinies.
And ultimately, that's what makes humans powerful. We have free will. We can choose to be good.
Despite where Ted ended up at the end of the story, he chose to be there, and he chose his own torment for the sake of the other's freedom. It's ironic that the thing that managed to get Ted the full brunt of Am's hatred and evil was using the one thing that Am himself never could, and that's free will. I don't know about you, but to sacrifice yourself while in the midst of hell seems like a pretty hopeful story to me. But that's not the only thing that's hopeful to me,
dude.
Because I also hope that you enjoyed this video.
Hey! I did enjoy this video. I fucking love Wendigoon videos. Yeah, I don't know. This is a fantastic story. Thank you for recommending Lore Dive to me. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is good shit. Really, really good shit. I'm really happy we got to do this. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know future lore dives you want me to do. When did Goon? More like when did Goat? Got him. Yeah, but this was good shit. I love the concept that humanity has, and that's something that artificial intelligence will never, ever, 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 ever have. I really do love that concept. I love that the idea that humans have free will, and that's a concept that, again, artificial intelligence can never have. God, and this story is really an exemplary way to explore that. The jealousy that an AI could have for humans, so it just tortures them for all time. A hopeful story about humanity being completely wiped out. Final thoughts on if humanity is good or evil? Well, I believe that is a philosophical debate, and everyone has to come up with that decision for themselves. I don't know. I think my favorite example of that in fiction, I know this is going to sound cringe, but Naruto versus Pain, debating whether they want to end the cycle of violence or let the cycle continue and hopefully humanity will prevail and find peace. That is ultimately a battle of, is humanity naturally good or naturally evil? Born good or... Personally, even though I'm a pessimistic piece of shit, I think humanity is naturally born good. Except we are enticed to evil. That's just my incredible hot take. But that's my personal opinion, obviously, and you're entitled to yours. Let me know in the comments! Naturally born good or naturally born evil? I'll be reading them. Stay weird, fam. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.